Episodes and epochs fly by, and we have now reached the Second Peloponnesian War, the decisive, protracted conflict that will decide who, Sparta or Athens, will hold Greece under its hegemony. Let's together discover the fierce Battle of Sphacteria and all the other war events in the world in the years 427 to 425 BC. As the winter of 427 is still ongoing, a few hundreds of Plataeans, besieged since 429 in Boeotia, or 431 depending on the way you look at it, attempt a brave sortie against their Peloponnesian, of Sparta's side, besiegers. By a dark and rainy night, the Plataeans, allies of Athens, assault the siege line facing their city, climbing its walls and towers beyond the ditch. 300 of the assailants run to the defenses to repulse the Plataeans, but those light torches and others at many emplacements to confuse the Peloponnesians that are supposed to know where the danger is by the use of light signals. And so they are trampled. 200 besieged manage to get past the second siege line, facing outward, and manage to reach Athens. About the same number, and a few Athenians, remain trapped though. And as the summer comes, the Lacedaemonians from Sparta in Peloponnese and their allies invade the Attic region of Athens one more time. They also send 40 war galleys under Navarch Alcidas to go and support Mytilene, city of Lesbos besieged by the Athenians. In the Attic, Cleomenes, strategos leading the land army, burns and pillages for a few weeks as usual, before withdrawing, Greek armies of the time lacking strong logistics. And in Lesbos, Mytilene capitulates before the rescue fleet can reach it. Navarch Alcidas does a 180, as Athenian triremes are already turning to hunt him, to no success. After this failed pursuit, Athenian Navarch Pachys intervenes in Notium in Ionia, which is threatened by Persians, supported by Arcadians from eastern Peloponnese. After some fightings, Notium and Colophon, see the previous video for this one, are back under Greek and Athenian influence. Pachys can then end pacifying Lesbos. Some Mytileneans are executed, the walls erased, Lesbos city itself is less harshly treated. And as we mentioned the Persians, here was an Attic vase commemorating past Greek victories over the Persians. And before summer's end, another Athenian strategos, Nicias, conquers the island of Minoa, very close to the coast where Megara sits. The Megarians use the island as a sort of watchtower, and it is taken after a few days and Poliorcetic maneuvers, Poliorcetic, the art of siege. And around this moment, Plataea finally is taken by the Thebans and Spartans. It is destroyed after its surrendering, 200 Plataeans and 25 Athenian allies, the last defenders, executed. Still around here, Corcyra, Corfu, today, vast island and city of Epirus, is in civil war, practically since last decade affairs in fact. It's swaying between Athens and Corinth's influence, Corinth on the side of Sparta. Several bloody events have occurred this year, involving warriors from the continent. In urban fightings, even women participate, throwing ties from the top of buildings. And here, the arrival of the Athenian Nicostratos with 12 galleys and 500 Messenian hoplites from Naupactus, right here, precedes by a handful of days that of 50 Peloponnesian ships, led by none other than Navarch Alcidas. Alcidas splits his fleet in two, 4 in addition to Nicostratos' ship, that include the Athenian elite trireme Salaminion and Paralus. The Corcyrians themselves launch a few of their ships, anarchically in truth, against him. When the evening comes, 13 Corcyraean ships have been captured, and the whole of the Peloponnesian fleet can gather against the Athenians, who, even if they had managed to encircle some of their counterparts, forming a defensive circle at some point, have to withdraw in relative good order. Rather oddly, Alcidas does not exploit this victory immediately and sails back towards the continent for the night. He comes back the following day to pillage the open lands without meeting enemy warriors and then departs for good, learning that 60 Athenian warships approach, come directly from Athens, coming all this way. Corcyra, though after a new bloody purge directly done by the pro-Athens themselves, falls for good into the Attic city's side. It will know some last rest after the Athenians' departure. Lastly, for this year, the hot days ending, Leontinoi, or Lentini, Sicilian city in conflict with Syracuse, calls Athens for help. This one sends Strategos Lakis with 20 triremes. Lakis starts off by taking Rhegion on the southwestern coast of Italy as a base of operations to help the Leontinians and their allies. As winter starts, as a plague erupts in Athens, killing thousands, 30 Atheno-Rhegian galleys attack the Aeolian or Lipari Islands, where sit some allies of Syracuse. After some devastation, the fleet sails back to Rhegion to spend the cold days. And so we pass to 426 BC. A heavy year also in this war, but we'll quickly first talk about the continuation of another war, the ongoing conflict between Veii, Etruscan city, and Rome, for control of Fidenae. Rome launches an offensive this year and prevails against the Etruscans before Fidenae. The men of consul Aulus Cornelius Cossus killed the king of Veii, Lars Tolumnius, or that of Fidenae, and maybe that would have been in a single combat between him and the consul. Fidenae, taken, is destroyed and will become a Roman colony, but the legions will have to intervene soon because of a massacre of the settlers by some Fidenaeans. Back to Greece, where Heraclea is founded west of the Thermopylae upon Sparta's initiative. The Lacedaemonians want the Trachinians to find shelter there after a difficult war they had to wage against Oeta, a Thessalian city, Thessalia, here. And why not maintain an arsenal against the Athenians there too? But the settlers of Heraclea will have to fight another protracted war against the Thessalians, and with insufficient support from Sparta, most of them will flee the place. Okay, back to the Peloponnesian War itself. And guess what? No Attic invasion by the Peloponnesians this year. Numerous earthquakes have impaired their ability to launch a serious campaign this year. So the operations will largely be naval. Summer come, Athenian Strategos Lakis attacks the Sicilian city of Mylae. Lakis' men coming from Rhegion are ambushed by the defenders as they are landing, but thanks to their allies they repulse this attack, and then a brief assault on the city is enough to submit it. Messena, neighbor of Mylae in the northeastern part of the island, also surrenders soon after. Still in Sicily, the ongoing conflict between Leontinoi and Syracuse sees quite some fighting during the year too. While this time, another Athenian strategos, Nicias, leads 60 galleys with 2,000 hoplites on board to raid the island of Melos, in the Cyclades, to no major effect apparently. This force then lands in Graeca, part of Boeotia, linking up with another expedition directly come from Athens to attack the city of Tanagra. The campaigns around this city are devastated, and a battle is fought between the Athenians on the one hand, and the Tanagrians and some Thebans arrived to their rescue. But the Athenians win, and then head home, Nicias pillaging Locris nearby, with his ships on the way. Showing the might of Athens at sea, another fleet of 30 Athenian galleys, backed among others by 15 ships of Corcyra and Acarnanians, from there, after one preliminary skirmish at Elomion, attacks Lefkada, island of the western coast of Greece. Aetolia, next to Acarnania, is also struck. Athenian strategos Demosthenes, letting the Acarnanians holding the siege of Lefkada city itself, allies with the Locrian people, the Ozolians, adept of small war tactics, to try and submit the Aetolians, seasoned guerrilla men too. In 3 days, Demosthenes takes 3 towns, Potidania, Gokyleon, and Techion, and then later Egition. But there, having separated from their Locrian allies, the Athenians find themselves massively assailed by the Aetolians that chuck javelins at them from the neighboring heights and slip away every time the hoplites try to close on them. The few archers among the Athenians and their allies are all that can prevent a complete disaster, until they are pelted with enemy arrows themselves. Then it's a complete rout. Over 100 Athenian hoplites, as many or more of their allies, perish, and few manage to get back to Locris. Demosthenes doesn't even dare returning to Athens with his survivors. He sees some Athenians back from Sicily land in Locris, and scoring some minor successes over Locrians opposed to their cause. And just as a quick side note, Locris is a very particular region as it has lands on this coast and on this one, separated by other regions' lands. So, after all this, maybe around the start of October, 3,000 Peloponnesian hoplites, many of them Lacedaemonians, of Sparta then, and led by Spartan Eurylochus, are sent to respond to a call to help by the Aetolians, of course. And so they march against Naupactus, right here, that is held by Athens. The army goes through Locris and the land of the Ozolians, who almost unanimously accept the passage of the Peloponnesians and even lend men to support them. True hostages are taken to ensure cooperation, so that explains something. Before Naupactus, Oinoin and Eupalion are taken, and then, some other Aetolians having joined the army, on Naupactus' territory itself, Molycraeon and the unfortified suburb of the city are conquered. But this is when 1,000 hoplites, mostly Acarnanians, but also accompanied by Demosthenes, intervene. Spartan Eurylochus decides to retreat northward, where the inhabitants of Ambracia tell him that he should march against Amphilochian Argos. Before seeing how this will go, a small parenthesis as winter starts to see how fare the Athenians still in Sicily. Under the command of Lachis, allied with former supporters of Syracuse, they failed at taking Inessa, still not far from Syracuse. Athens' allies are then hardly pressed during their withdrawal by the Syracusans and lose some men in the affair. Lachis then decides to go pillage a little bit in Locris, far from there, tell me. There he defeats a small party of 300 Locrians coming against him. During the winter now, back to Spartan Eurylochus and the Ambraciots that wanted with his help to attack Amphilochian Argos. Well, they just seized the lands around it and the town of Olpae nearby. But then come rushing against them a strong force of Acarnanians. The 3,000 hoplites of Ambracia regroup with Eurylochus and his comparable force, and they do well as other enemies land in their back. It's Demosthenes and his Athenians via 20 galleys and with 200 Messenian hoplites plus a few dozens of archers. The battle between all these occur a few days later near Olpae, Demosthenes holds the right of his battle line with his Athenians and Messenians, and the left is left to the Acarnanians and Javeliners of Amphilochian Argos. And Demosthenes also hides, ready for ambush, 400 warriors, a mix of hoplites and light infantrymen in bushes or groves on the right of the battlefield. This should help against the enemy larger battle line. In this one, Eurylochus is surprisingly with his elite troops on the left, the other Peloponnesians and the Ambracians in the center and on the right. Battle begins, and soon enough, Eurylochus and his men are hit on the flank by the ambushers springing up from their cover, just when they thought they were about to envelop Demosthenes' right. On the other side of the battlefield, the Peloponnesians have taken the upper hand, but they decide to retreat towards Olpae when they see the rout of the Spartans, Eurylochus himself being killed in the action. 300 Acarnanians, Athenians, and others have died, many more of their enemies, among which hoplites from Mantinea are the only ones managing to withdraw in good order. The following days, an agreement is reached to let the Mantineans and some other Peloponnesians go, but several hundreds of Ambracians are executed or killed as a new force coming from Ambracia is ambushed at several locations by Demosthenes and Acarnanian light infantry. It is said that Demosthenes himself would have gotten a booty of 300 armors during these events. After all this, Ambracians and Acarnanians agree on a durable peace between them. Okay, that was a good chunk of warfare, but here is the last and utmost important year of this video. The year of Sphacteria. Remember this name. We'll get to it in a minute. First off, in India, the Nandas overthrow from here on the rulers of Magadha in the Ganges Valley, the Shishunagas that had succeeded to the Haryankas. The founder of the Nanda dynasty is Mahapadma. Note that other sources give very different dates. Back in Greece, still during the winter, an Athenian assault is launched against the territory of Hymera and the Aeolian Islands or Lipari Islands north of Sicily. At the head of the Athenians there, Laches is replaced by Pythodorus with additional ships to combat Syracuse. But he'll rather attempt a landing in Locris again and be repulsed. Know that Athens doubles the financial contribution asked of its allies of the Delian League this year to increase its military capabilities. And now, spring has come. 10 Syracusan galleys and 10 Locrians reach Messina here and snatch the city away from Athens' grasp. Locrians also attack Rhegium's territory, ravaging a bit before withdrawing. A little bit later this season, Athenian strategos Simonides takes Eion on the coast of Thrace. Chalcidians and Bottiaeans, Thracians or Illyrians, so people from these regions, quickly intervene and dislodge him from there with losses. Around the same time, the Peloponnesians, under Spartan Euryponted king Aegis II, invade Attica, but they only stay there for 2 weeks. Indeed, there are new developments elsewhere that require attention and resources. This is it, the dramatic affair of Pylos and Sphacteria, which will rock Sparta for a good chunk of time. It all starts with 60 Peloponnesian war galleys sailing for Corcyra, northwest of Greece, the island being in turmoil, and 40 Athenian ships heading the same way, and landing some small party on the way at Pylos, or Coryphasion, on the western coast of Peloponnese. This small force quickly fortifies the place, already naturally well defended, and thus holds an interesting base from which to launch raids into the heart of enemy territory. Demosthenes commands this contingent of a few hundred men, keeping 5 galleys with him. Of course, the Spartans cannot let that go unpunished. With their elite troops just back from the Attic, some Perikoi, free men of their region, and their 60 galleys called back from Corcyra, crossing the Isthmus of Leucada north of here through land so as not to get intercepted by the 40 Athenian triremes, they launch a combined sea and land assault against the fort of Pylos or Coryphasion. For 2 days the fight goes on, and the famous Spartan Brasidas is hurt in the action. The position resists. The attack is a failure. Not giving up yet, to better control the approach of the sector and the environs, the Peloponnesians then install a fortified position east of the Athenian fort and land 420 hoplites, half of them Spartans or Moi, on Sphacteria. This long island, the Spartans being accompanied by their helots slave servants. But the Athenian fleet is back from Corcyra, reinforced to 60 ships also, and it presses the Peloponnesian ships to retreat into the cove of Pylos, many sunk, many stranded against the coast or Sphacteria, on which the Spartans and Perikoi are now trapped, isolated. After a few days of negotiations, the Peloponnesians, from their continental positions, resume assaults against the defenses of Pylos, an unmortared stone wall actually, but to no avail. The now 70 Athenian galleys maintain their blockade around Sphacteria, and only a handful of supplies can be passed to the besieged hoplites there. And so the siege lasts for weeks, and it is an accidental fire that will finally decide the outcome. The flames burn almost all the woods on Sphacteria, leaving the Spartans and Perikoi with little or no cover, except 3 small camps or forts, one of them the remnants of a Mycenaean fortification. Athenian strategos Cleon arrives with more reinforcements, among them light peltasts and 400 archers, and the landing is made by night on Sphacteria. 800 hoplites touch ground on opposite sides of the island and take a first Lacedaemonian position, killing 30 surprised defenders. At dawn, the rest of the troops land. Armed sailors, 800 peltasts, 800 archers, Messenians and other Athenian troops, including 800 hoplites. Several combat groups from then on harassed the Lacedaemonians continuously, refusing the close combat to the heavy Spartans and Perikoi that vainly try to close in and exhaust themselves. Projectiles, shouts, rising ashes under the footsteps, all plays against the Lacedaemonians that retreat northward towards their last defensible position, possibly the old Mycenaean fort. And when occasion is given to them to surrender, they do. Spartans surrendering instead of fighting to the last, like Leonidas and his 300? Wow! Out of 420 hoplites, 292 are still alive, 120 of them or more Spartans. Their hoplo shields will make for fine trophies for the victors, of which less than 100 have perished on the island. 72 days the Battle of Pylos and Sphacteria has lasted, and it is now about mid-August. Pylos is effectively a base for the Athenians to launch raids in Peloponnese from. As they had planned, Sparta is humiliated and has lost very precious warriors as it doesn't count many. The Peloponnesian city offers a peace, but Athens refuses, even menacing to execute all the prisoners made in case of a new raid in the Attic. The demonstration of the possible superiority of light infantry, peltast, over the hoplite has clearly been made here, and the Athenians will make their own hoplites lighter, abandoning the heavy cuirass for a lighter combination of scales and linen layers. But maybe Athens should have accepted a peace here, while it clearly had the upper hand. Anyway, While the events of Pylos, about 30 Syracusan and Locrian galleys are defeated in the Strait of Messina by 16 Athenian ships and 8 of Rhegium. That afternoon's losses are minimal, maybe only 1 hull. But after it, the Locrians abandon Rhegium. Shortly after, together Athenians and Rhegians attack enemy ships as they are mooring near Messina at Peloris, but the defenders' reaction is so prompt that the Athenians lose 2 ships, one of them hit by an iron hand, probably some sort of grapnel, and that the Syracusans and Locrians manage to reach Messina's harbor to shelter there. Then the Athenians turn their efforts against the Camarina on the southern coast of Sicily, and the Messenians against Naxos on the eastern coast. The Naxians, at first safely hidden behind their walls, launch an efficient sortie combined with an on-point intervention of their Sicels or Shekelesh allies from the mountains, and over 1,000 Messenians are killed, maybe even more in their rout. At last, the Athenians, aided by Leontinians, launch a sea and land attack against Messina, but the Leontinians are repulsed by sortie from the Messenians and Locrians, themselves pushed back into the city by an Athenian landing. The end of these fightings in Sicily in 30 seconds. Now, after the events of Pylos, but still during the summer, 80 Athenian and ally ships transport 2,000 hoplites and 200 cavalrymen near Corinth. Nicias, commander of the troops, is quickly set upon by the Corinthians near the village of Soligea. Battle lines clash, and Nicias prevails, only his right being contested by some coming and going of both sides. Severely beaten, without cavalry, the Corinthians retreat on some high ground. New Corinthian troops approaching, Nicias decides on a withdrawal, back to the ships though. Toll, 200 killed in action for Corinth, 50 for Athens. Nicias goes on to pillage elsewhere, installs a garrison near Trezena at Metone, fortified for the occasion, and raids will be launched from it afterwards. 2 last lines for today. In the same environs, new massacres at Corcyra amidst local troubles facilitated by some Athenians that then sail towards Sicily. But a truce is soon to be declared over there, the Athenians then going back to Athens, very not rewarded for their cessation of hostilities in Sicily. And by the end of summer, Athenians from Naupactus and Acarnanians attack and take, thanks to turncoats, an Anactorian Corinthian town at the entrance of the Gulf of Ambracia. Next week, this Peloponnesian War continues. After its humiliation of Sphacteria, Sparta is not out of the game yet, with heroes from both sides clashing and dying on the battlefield. Thank you all for your fidelity to this 100% without AI channel. See you all soon.